18 November marked 6 years since the military coup in Zimbabwe that ousted longtime President Robert Mugabe. Citizens say they believed Emmerson Mnangagwa, the man who succeeded President Mugabe in the coup, was God-sent. Mnangagwa had pledged change and new Zimbabwe, with thousands of jubilant citizens taking to the streets to celebrate what they hoped would be a dawning of a new chapter in their country's history. However, years down the line, many say things have gotten worse as the economy is in trouble with no job creation and industries still grounded. Zimbabwe is in the throes of a deepening economic crisis characterized by high inflation, foreign currency shortages, and a devastating mix of a rapidly weakening currency and stagnant salaries. Joining us on the news is Makomborero Haruzive, a political analyst, to discuss more on this. Hello, and thank you for joining us on the news.
Yeah, thank you for hosting me. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, can you provide an overview of the political and socio-economic situation in Zimbabwe since the 2017 coup?
I would, in summation, call it a serious anticlimax. I would call it an anticlimax of the century per se, because exactly the same things the coup stars were claiming to be fighting against. For example, things like they accused Mugabe of wanting to implement a family dynasty, in power. But then Mnangagwa took over. He's actually implementing the dynasty that they accused Mugabe of wanting to implement. His children are taking over the economy, they're taking over cabinet, they're taking over top military roles. They accused Mugabe of corruption, but we are seeing the incumbent regime that replaced him after a coup taking corruption, at industrial scales to international levels. We saw the gold mafia, how they are looting multi-millions, siphoning them outside the country, for personal deals, while the millions in Zimbabweans are suffering. We can go even to issues of basic incompetence when it comes to political reforms. There has been capture, I can call it fully fledged capture, which was kickstarted by the subversion of the Zimbabwe's constitution in the coup. It is manifesting in various ways, like politically, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is captured. We see children of top ZANU-PF officials like Kimbo Mahadi, they are commissioners in this electoral body, and it's refusing to reform. It shows how things have gone worse. They are, also implementing what Mugabe attempted and failed, but they're now effectively implementing a one-party state in Zimbabwe, making it difficult for the constitutionally guaranteed multi-party democracy in Zimbabwe to flourish. We see how they are targeting the main opposition through arrests, through judicial capture, through even other uncouth maneuvers, like to dispossess the main leading presidential candidate, Mr. Nelson Chamisa. They are stripping him of his party and everything.
Makomborero, now in light of some of the concerns that you've raised, talking about children being in cabinet and, others, generally, how would you describe the mood and attitudes of Zimbabweans, that Zimbabweans, in light of all this, especially in the aftermath of the coup?
I can use what I call the human index in response, because in politics it's difficult to really judge in terms of feelings, but there are statistics those who are voting with their feet and going outside the country, they're in their millions. Zimbabwe, in Southern Africa, Zimbabwe is one of the highest numbers of citizens who are in the diaspora as political and economic refugees. We all see the impact it's having in neighboring countries like South Africa, Botswana, and others. This shows that Zimbabweans are rejecting the coup in total, and they are so disappointed because it failed to even revive industries. Industries in Zimbabwe, they are dead. There are no jobs in Zimbabwe. We go to statistics of drug abuse. Young men and women are resorting to drug abuse as a way to adapt to the abnormal conditions that they're being subjected to the conditions of zero hopelessness. We see even to adapt young kids, official statistics, they show that annually hundreds of underage girls are forced into marriages so that they survive economically. If you go to areas like Hopley or Epworth, you will find that children as young as 12, 13 years are now resorting to to prostitution for them to survive, and it's unfortunate. We go to the issues of those who are committing crimes of the economy. I'll categorize them as crimes of the economy because these are people who are forced out of desperateness to commit crime like fraud, robberies. They are on the increase. And if you go to prisons, you find that 80% of inmates in there, by the way, Zimbabwean prisons are overcrowded, but most of them is crimes of the economy. They have nowhere to go. You will find that it's soldiers who are disillusioned, who thought Zimbabwe would be better, but now there is no hope. They are working, they're earning peanuts. They are now using service rifles to go and commit armed robberies. Police officers doing the same. You discover that even in terms of statistics, like those who are deserting in the military, in the police force, they are high. These are what I would call, the human reactions. It's more of scientific to show how Zimbabweans have rejected the coup.
All right, Makomborero, you did say that, there's a feeling of disappointment, with Zimbabweans since after the coup, and you talked about the lack of jobs, abuses being perpetrated, and, crimes being committed to the point that some of the Zimbabweans are actually hopeless. Now, but in light of all of this, have there been any notable improvements on the challenges that they are actually facing at the moment?
It will be, a serious understatement to say there are any positive changes. The reality is there are changes, but they are very negative. And we see even in the most trendy or topical issues in Zimbabwe, you see Emmerson Mnangagwa is focusing on legislature, or in terms of policy initiatives like, illegal constitutional amendments to extend the Chief Justice tenure. He's doing it for purely political reasons to capture the justice system. We see it in the constitutional appointment which happened recently, the constitutional appointment of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Commander, General Valerio Sibanda. It is unconstitutional. Even Mnangagwa himself recently admitted that it was unconstitutional. We see things like convictions of political activists like Mr. Jacob Ngarufume, Mr. Job Sikala, and also prolonged pre-trial incarcerations and detentions. We see it every day. This is what they are doing. These are the policies that they are implementing, that they are initiating, and we can't really call it, progressive. We see cases of abductions. Top, the government officials like members of parliament, like Honorable Takuzo Ngatswol, Honorable James Chitako, abducted live on camera. People are identified, no one gets arrested. This shows how Zimbabwe has degenerated into worse under Emmerson Mnangagwa. This shows how when the coup, when people, the ordinary masses were lied to that it's removing Mugabe.
All right. Thank you so much, Makomborero. Sadly, we'll have to wrap up our discussion here, but we appreciate you for joining us on the news to discuss this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.